If you want to ask any questions, especially with the Q&A toward the end, I ask that you do so through the chat area, which is located in the bottom corner of your monitor. While I've got you too, I also want to mention the NUTN Summit 2010, Leading the New Normal in Higher Education, a forum for innovative leaders. You can get more information on that event, which is scheduled September 27th to 29th at the Cheyenne Mountain Resort in Colorado Springs at Pikes Peak at newton.org. So with that, I want to get ready to hand things off to today's presenter, Chris Melissinos, who is the former Chief Gaming Officer and Chief Evangelist for Sun Microsystems, where he worked for 15 years as a veteran in their program. He was behind the Dark Star project, as well as other things at Java 1, developer communities, technology, change agents. He's a highly sought-after speaker. This is my third time working with him. Always has great things to say. Always learn a lot from him. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Chris Melissinos, and I'm sure he'll tell you more about what he's got going and what's coming up for him while he does his presentation. Thanks again.
Thank you all so much for taking time out for me to speak with you today. It's been really a pleasure working with Robert on these sorts of conferences, and as you mentioned, this is our third time working together. I should also make mention of the fact that there are two audio-video pieces in my presentation that may have some lag to them. Because you're not going to be able to hear the audio in the through the web from the presentation, what I'm going to do is just have the audio play out through my speakers here in my home office, and hopefully it'll sync up. Even if it doesn't sync up very well, you'll get the basic gist of this stuff. So with that, we'll jump right into it. So again, by way of introduction, my name is Chris Melissinos. I was the Chief Evangelist and the Chief Gaming Officer for Sun Microsystems, and was also the host of Java 1 for a couple of years, and have been a participant in that conference for quite some time. I was at the company for 16 years, which is about 8 lifetimes in the tech industry, but it was always because I had something interesting to do and found avenues to pursue some really interesting projects and opportunities. So kind of always kept my interest level very high. I wound up leading client and server game technology development for just over a decade. I've been very active in the game industry, specifically in the conference space, in the developer space, mobility, web, server side, just kind of all over the place. After leaving a company called Past Pixels, so you can check it out. The site should be going live sometime late this week or early next week. It's pastpixels.com, and it's basically a consultancy group that's also focusing on an interesting project that I'm working on right now. And that leads me to the last point here, is I'm also listed as a guest curator at the Smithsonian's American Art Museum, and we'll talk a little bit later about why and kind of how that ties into all this stuff. So since I can actually see everyone typing, has anyone ever seen the Potter Puppet Pals before? No. All right, good. So Robert has actually seen this before, and the first time he actually had a chance to see this video was when I showed this clip to an entire room filled with officers and senior level people from the military at the Department of Defense's Worldwide Education Summit. So let's check out what the Potter Puppet Pals is all about, shall we?
What is that mysterious ticking noise? Trying to catch you. Snipe, snipe, Severus Snipe, 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 Severus Snipe, Dumbledore, snipe, Severus Snipe, Dumbledore, snipe, Severus Snipe, Dumbledore, snipe,
Pals, a pretty ridiculous but awesome piece of video that's actually on YouTube. And what was really cool about it is, it was made by these 4 kids who got together and made these felt Harry Potter puppets and decided to put on these little sketches here and put them up on YouTube. What's really interesting, when you look at a platform like YouTube, it enabled these kids with basically a consumer-grade level product like a flip camera, a $200 device. They're able to go ahead and record this sort of video. So if you see here on the right-hand side is the YouTube page for the Potter Puppet Pals. And on the left is a 3-camera shoot for a Fox affiliate, Fox 13, and it's a multi-million-dollar studio for this sort of a platform. The difference between these two platforms is that the Fox News Channel, that station reaches about 3.92 million viewers versus 77,823,000 individual unique viewers of the Potter Puppet Pals video on YouTube. So basically, these kids with a $200 camera are achieving over 2/3 of the viewership when you break it down month by month over the time that the video has run versus the affiliate has run. And they're outpacing, basically, or they're keeping pace, rather, with a multi-million-dollar studio. Right? It is these sorts of platforms that allows us to arrive at the first statement presentation, which is that access to technology and connectivity has permanently changed the parameters of human interaction and reach. And this is an extremely important thing to remember when we're talking about the reach of the Internet, its impact on society, how we engage with this communications platform, and what it's going to mean for us, and even more specifically, the following 2 to 3 generations of kids that will be growing up with these platforms. Now, if you look at the trajectory for social-based media, right? Seemingly, the Internet has kind of cropped up overnight. This is a very interesting slide. It's missing, obviously, there's a lot of holes in this timeline, but it does point to pieces of technology that were used for socialization of people as well as dissemination of information. So if you look all the way back to the Postal Service in Persia in 550 BC, to the telegraph in France in 1792, the telephone in 1890, flash forward all the way, go past DARPANET. We really don't need to discuss that, although, it's interesting from a historical point of view, as well as, the creation of email and BBS systems. And many of you that are probably listening to this, if you're students, really have probably never messed around with BBSs. I, kind of grew up in the era when BBSs were prevalent, when you got online with a 300 baud modem and could text and chat with your friends and post messages and do all sorts of stuff. It was pretty amazing, even on a green screen. But if you really look at when the Internet really first took off, when it took off in the sense of it becoming a mass market communication platform, it really only happened in 1994. So if you really think about it, consumers have only lived with the Internet for 16 years. For 16 incredibly short years, right? And there has never been another platform in the world that has been as rapidly adopted and as transformative as the Internet. It actually gives rise to what I call eyes of you. When you take a look at the sheer amount of social networks, platforms that allow people to connect, communicate, play, discover, share, it's absolutely staggering. And we're going just to continue to see this massive knee up in the adoption of these platforms moving forward. This is something that cannot be unplugged. This is something that we can't go backwards from. It's very interesting, we talk about I remember back, with the turn of the century when, everyone was afraid that planes were going to fall out of the sky and, you'll be on an elevator and, Y2K will hit and you'll just plummet to your death and all these sorts of crazy notions, And even back then we started to ask questions like what would happen if that were to occur? Could the banking industry go back to using ledgers? Could remote offices go back to using fax machines? If you had to handwrite information, if you had to handwrite letters to all of your business correspondents, to your friends, to your family, what would happen in terms of the amount of sheer output that you can produce? What would happen to that, right? Would it completely contract? Absolutely it would, right? How many people today still really write letters, handwritten notes? We do them only in the cases where it is most important, where it does provide the most personal touch, right? Personal thought. So these are typically thank you letters that we make our kids write because it's still important to do so. But even that is becoming less and less expected. Right? So the rise of you is really about the global adoption, the sociological adoption of these platforms as platforms for everything from communication to work to personal contact. The real question is, why has it grown so fast? Right? Is it pure access to information that has allowed the internet to have this dominant foothold in the social fabric of basically first world countries and now second world countries? I don't believe so. Is it the avenue of creation? Well, that certainly is attractive, and it's something that we see within this current generation of consumer products, news products, and information delivery. We are part of the remix generation. We are the living right now in the era where we want to see ourselves in the things that we adopt. The perfect example of this in a very real sense for a physical product is the Scion series of cars. People can type back in the chat box here. How many people have seen the Scion cars and know about Scions? Anyone want to text back? Just so, okay, good. All right. So we have people saying, yep, somebody owns one. Okay, so Patty Jennings, which Scion do you own, A, B, or C? Let's see what Patty has to say. Oh, is Patty not going to tell us what car she drives? Okay. Oh, her daughter owns it. It's an A car. Okay, so think about this. Scion cars from Toyota. The cars are named A, B, and C, the most generic names you could possibly give to a product. Yet they are absolutely wildly popular, specifically with youth markets. Why? Because there are about 75 different options that are available for every Scion, which means that just about every single car driving out of a dealership is unique to that user. Whether it's graphics, whether it's the 5 different color interior lights, the type of rims, the type of hoods, these sorts of things. We are stamping ourselves, who we are, what we desire, into the products that we own, and that communicates to the rest of the world the things that we appreciate, the things that we like, right? I mean, look, back when PCs really became a rage, and when you're looking at the late 80s to early 90s, everything was a beige box. Well, all of a sudden, purple computers come out from Sony, right, with Vio. And now we've got Chrome and all these other things in wild colors. Why? Because people want to see themselves in the products that they own. If not, everyone would still be carrying beige boxes around, so think about that. So again, look at the next bullet point. Was it access to entertainment? Well, yeah. I mean, entertainment is an incredibly powerful adoption lever, right? It is incredibly seductive, and it has the innate ability to remove fear from adoption, fear from platforms, fear from